Welcome to episode 195 of Sports Geek. On this week's episode, I chat brand and sponsorship with the Brisbane Broncos' Kurt Brutton.
Welcome to Sports Geek, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here's your host, who knows his way around an airport, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. Yes, my name is Sean Callanan, and I do know my way around an airport. I've seen a few of them in the last couple of weeks, and as this episode is going out, I've been seeing them over the weekend, and I've got a few more in my future. If you're listening to this in the first 24 hours of this podcast being released, I will be in San Francisco. Please let me know if you listen in the first, when it initially drops. I'd love to know the people who do that. I'm currently in San Francisco if you've listened to it straight away. If not, if you wait a couple of days, I may be in Montreal. I'm in Montreal from the 22nd to 26th. And if you listen to it back later, I don't know where I'll be. But as always, you can contact me, Sean, at sportsgeekhq.com or at Sean Callanan or at SportsGeek on most channels. You'll be able to get me that way. And as always, if you want to work with me or figure out how I can work with you, you can simply go to sportsgeekhq.com/work and fill out the form, find a time, and hopefully we can connect on a call and figure out how I can help you. Caught up with Kurt Brutton. I've known Kurt for a long time. I met him many years ago when he was working in the A-League at the Brisbane Roar. So it was good to catch up with him in his role, in his relatively new role. He's been there a while now at the Brisbane Broncos in their new facilities. They've recently moved in at the end of last year, and talk about his experience and his career for someone that has worked at all different ball codes. We go into that, and also the responsibility that Kurt feels both as someone who grew up following the Broncos, but the massive brand and entity that is the Brisbane Broncos, especially in Queensland. They're practically an institution, and so we go into that and how he works in the sponsorship team and the marketing and brand as a brand executive, and how he works with the digital team and all the integration pieces that I find myself talking about and working with people on. So I hope you enjoy my chat with Kurt Brutton from the Brisbane Broncos. Very happy to be here in sunny Brisbane at the Clive Berghofer Centre, new home of the Brisbane Broncos. And we are here in the Kevy Walters meeting room. Welcome to Kurt Brutton.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. We're here in the Kevy Walters meeting room, and we're just having a little bit of I guess every sports, new sports facility starts naming their meeting rooms after their legends of their sport, and of the Broncos in this case. And so we're in the Kevy one. Next door is the
Alan Langer room.
Yeah, the Alan Langer, who is a legend of the Broncos.
Yeah,
and it's the biggest meeting room.
It's the biggest meeting room on this floor. Yeah,
and Alfie is small of stature,
about 5'2",
and the room next door to us is.
It's the Gordon Tallis room. It's the smallest room.
And Gordon Tallis is an absolute monster.
A monster, yes.
So I love the fact that the sizing and a little bit of, getting the meeting room sizes right. So we are here in the new facility, the Broncos Open. So when did you guys open this?
So we moved in December last year, right at the time of Christmas going on. So that was a really fun sort of a move.
Because I think I caught up with you probably mid last year, and you're in the middle of and hoping when it was go in, and
yep.
The thing with new facility builds, and there'll be a few people who are listening have gone through it. They sort of take a little bit longer.
Yeah, it started. We'll move in September, October, November. We're looking at it. It's all kind of finished on the outside. Okay, we can move in now. You get kind of 2 weeks' notice to pack up your stuff and move across the road. But we're in now. It's been a very smooth transition across to here, and it's a fantastic facility.
Yeah, so we just did a bit of a tour. We've got the training field out there. You've got the gym downstairs. Sort of take people through, I guess, what the facility is and sort of, what you've moved into.
So the basis of the facility was it's the first time in 30 years that the club has all been under the one roof. So previously the admin worked out of the Leagues Club, which is a separate business.
Which is across the road from where we are now?
Across the road from where we are now. So we haven't moved very far at all.
But where was the training and where were the players?
So training still happened on the same site. There was a field right next to the Leagues Club, but the gym and the coaching areas, they had a building next to the field as well. So if any of the admin staff needed to engage with footy, it was a 100-metre walk across the side of a field to engage with them. Players would have to make a special effort to come into the admin area.
It does. I mean, it's not quite the disconnect of, say, the Boston Celtics that have the admin staff at one end of town and the training facility at the other end of town. So you don't have the terrible like commute, but it's still a bit of a disconnect.
Correct. You feel like two parts of a club.
Yeah.
Whereas this building in its design phase from the very start was about bringing everyone into one. So, in the tour we took you through, we've got a new dining area here that sits halfway between the floors. So it's a 3-story building. On the ground floor is players, middle floor is coaching, sports science, and the top floor is admin with sponsorship, membership, media. But there's a floor that sits halfway in between, and the idea is that it's no one's specific area, and that's our common dining area. So everyone meets halfway to engage with it together. So been a really good cultural shift in this crossover between football and admin and everyone all in together. And then the entire building is positioned behind the goals on our new field.
Yep.
So there's a brand new field and everything looks out towards that field. So it's a holistic view of everything that you need to be a successful football operation is all being put into this building.
So you're now in your new digs. Let's find out a little bit more about yourself. What's your role here at the Broncos?
So my official title is Marketing and Brand Executive, but we're structured a bit different in this club in that we don't have a marketing department. We don't have an operations department. We have.
What do you mean by operations?
So operations is in delivering your game days, delivering your big screen content and your food drops even to players and activations at game days. We have one really big sponsorship department. So within sponsorship, I have a list of accounts that I manage, some of our really big sponsors as well. And then I also manage the club's marketing. And the idea is that we get that integration of our partners with our marketing. And then we have people within sponsorship who run operations as well. And their sponsors that they account manage for are easily integrated into our game days where that's their objective. So it's a different approach from my experience of clubs. But it seems to work really well.
So so effectively you're in the sponsorship commercial department more so than, like when you said, marketing and brand executive, it sounds like you're in a marketing department.
Correct.
But really you're in the commercial sponsorship department with a focus of, hey, we've still got to do the marketing for the club. So it's a bit of a foot in both camps for that side of things.
Correct. And that's how the whole department operates. So everyone's got a foot in both camps, and it's about the integration again. So our multimedia and our design team and the guys producing our content sit in a different department, but I also then step across into their meetings and have daily conversations with them about what they're doing. With the objective of also integrating our partners across that.
So you don't have that disconnect that sometimes happens with a marketing team in its own silo that's saying, hey, we're rolling out this cool new campaign for membership or just brand, just to say, hey, this is what we're doing. And doing terrific creative, and it's on point from the brand point of view, but they're not coming back to the sponsorship team to say, oh, how does this work with our partners? How can they better leverage this? Because that's a really big opportunity, and the partners want to be part of it. So the fact that you're one and the same person, unless you've got a multiple personality disorder where you don't talk to one another, you're across both.
Correct. It also works, the other situation that you see a lot is the multimedia and the content guys are producing this great stuff, and then a sponsor comes in with a campaign that they want posted on that sort of a channel, and it doesn't work. It doesn't
click. It
doesn't flow. But because we've got that integration, when they're talking about some of their ideas, we can jump in and go, hey, this partner's actually really looking for some great content in this sort of a space. It would work. Let's integrate it from the start.
It's so important. And, you know, I when I'm working with teams and, you know, content teams, the digital side, when they're doing stuff, I'm all for them doing stuff they want to do. But a lot of the times they go, oh, we're going to do this cool stuff, and they don't name it and define it and say who the audience is. They just go, oh, this is cool, which it is. But then the second piece is making sure your sponsorship team is aware of it before you do it.
Correct.
Not hey, you know, because on the other side, you know, the digital teams, they're saying, oh, the sponsorship execs just sent us something and we have to do it. It works the other way as well. When the sponsorship exec goes, that's a killer piece of content, or that's going viral. Hang on, we didn't talk to our partners about that. They would have been, you know, been all across it.
Yeah.
So it's a real important process to be in there and sort of say, oh, you know, yes, we want to do it, and I've got the right partner for you.
Yeah, we do get those late viral moments quite a bit where we're like, fantastic content, that'll be awesome. Let's do it. And, you know, you get the buy-in from all parties then too.
And do you think because you've got that integration, or the fact that you're sitting in on those meetings, that I guess the commercial savviness of your digital team is growing? Like, yeah, because I'm always
100%.
saying to them, you know, you've got to pitch like you're a TV show. Like, you know, you're pitching to a new network. Oh, here's my sitcom. This is for the audience, and this is who's going to love it. You've got to do that with all of your content because, you know, you need an advertiser.
Yep.
I can't believe I'm doing air quotes while recording a podcast, but I just did. You know, and so that's the piece that's worked really well for you guys.
100%. So, you know, good segue into, you know, some of the stuff that we are doing here. You know, content that they're producing, so, you know, podcasts and Facebook live shows, they're actually thinking from the very start, okay, if we did it like this, sponsorship then have the opportunity to sell into it like this. So they're developing these concepts with a commercial lens,
Yep.
and helping to present to us new assets to sell. So, you know, in clubs, you've got your big brand assets on your apparel.
Yep.
Which we're lucky enough to be full with.
Yep.
So then we start searching, what are the other assets? How do we get more partners involved? How do we get the existing partners more involved in other areas? And so our multimedia team, because we've got this tight connection with them, are developing assets for us.
And it is a matter of, you know, you're in a very lucky is not the right word, very, you know, Broncos are a super strong club, you know, inventory, you know, you sell out of inventory. So when you get to that position, you go, you know, we need to create more inventory. We've sold, you know, talk about apparel. You've sold your shirt sponsorship and your short sponsorship. You know, it's something we're seeing in the US now that they're starting to see the, you know, the advantages, or at least just the revenue that you can put by putting a logo on your jersey. You know, that's sold out and it's premium, and you've sold out your other, you know, your other inventory items. So it's like, well, your team, you know, everyone in the sponsorship team says, well, we want to.
What else have we got?
What have we got next? What's next? And, you know, digital and content, you know, is the option. You know, I think the article recently from Man City saying their second most important product after football is content.
Yep.
Right. And, you know, that's the game we're all in now, whether you're working on the digital side or the sponsorship side. So, and from a sponsor point of view, what's their appetite and both desire and understanding of the digital space? Because you've got a lot of sponsors that go, I want the logo, I want the signage, and not quite knowing how to be in the digital space.
Yeah, I think it comes from, you know, those initial first step conversations that we have with our sponsors. Sponsorship department are also equipped in that area and that knowledge to be able to present forward and get them from the very start on the journey of, you know, how to integrate across the board.
Yep.
You know, you've got your brand assets, you've got your digital assets. How's this all going to work together? And then, you know, it also comes from in the sponsorship team, our expertise. We all sit together. We're all a tight knit bunch, but they can lean on me for my marketing expertise, or I can lean on them for their operational activation experience. So we've all got these multifaceted roles, and we all talk to each other. So we all know each other's sponsors. We all know who we're pitching for at a particular time, and we all contribute from that. So we can start with the sponsor from the very start, from the initial conversation.
Yep.
What are your objectives? And then work back to develop, okay, what's an optimal plan for this partner?
It's so, that it's so important, that initial piece. You know, I had someone email me, I apologize, can't remember who it was, but he was asking me about sponsorship and how do I, pitch it to figure out what the sponsor wants. And so the latest one I've go with is the Spice Girl strategy of ask them what they want, what they really, really want, right? And because most of the time they don't know, right? And or they're it's a bit unsure or a bit fuzzy. Whereas if you say, what do you really want? And, is it brand? Is it awareness? Is it reach to a certain audience? Is it leads? That kind of thing. Or is it activating in the stadium or driving people into a store? Like that starts the whole conversation for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, sponsors are now smart enough to know that, a logo presented on one particular medium is not enough.
Yep.
How are they leveraging that? And that's probably the other big part of this club is the strength of the Broncos brand.
Yep.
Buying access to that IP for a lot of our partners is just as valuable as the brand presence that we can put forward. So, example up here is we've got the Broncos burger at McDonald's.
Yep.
Now that is a massive brand piece for McDonald's and in the Brisbane region. So it's on their point of sale when you come to a Macca's here as our players.
A Macca's is McDonald's. That's Australian for McDonald's for our US listeners. but that is true.
That's right. Yes, it is.
I just have to put translation service in sometimes,
Sorry.
but yeah.
Yeah. G'day, mate.
But it is an important point of understanding the value of just the IP of your brand.
Yeah.
Right. And it can be just in the logo, like you're talking about there with the McDonald's partnership, but then also in all of those all those social assets.
Yes.
Right. Because, just because you've got Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, all these channels, whatever they are.
Yep.
The days of, and there's still people that are throwing it in.
Yep.
You've got to, if you don't put value on it yourself, then the brands won't.
Yep.
So you've got to say, well, you want to be on our Facebook wall or under our brand on Facebook or Twitter. If you don't say, well, this is what it's worth to us,
yep,
then it's really hard to have that conversation with the sponsor to say, here's what we're going to charge you.
And we have that predefined as well. So, all clubs will have their hierarchy of sponsorship, from their naming rights to their platinum and principal partners and working down from that. So we have those listed out.
Yep.
And we know what it takes to be in that, but then what access a particular partner will get. So there is a minimum investment to be able to use our logo and our player and our colour IP.
Yep.
There's a minimum investment to be involved in our social.
Yep.
So part of that is just that sitting down before you're trying to scratch around for money and defining what it is that it's going to take for a partner to get to somewhere.
Yeah. And, I love the recent article of that mentioned The Rock's movie negotiations, where he says, here's what you pay me to be in your movie. Oh, you want me to tweet about your movie? That's another $1 million. Yeah. Right? Because he goes, well, you're buying me, the actor, right? Yeah. You're not buying me, the media network and the channel and that kind of thing. And I think it's a great case for sports teams, leagues, athletes to say, you got to put a value on this. Yeah. If you don't put a number on it and say this is why, then people will get it for free, and it's really hard to increase free. Yes, and it's actually interesting me being in this position now because it's not always been like that. Yeah, my journey through clubs, it is very privileged to be in a club like this where we do have that strength of partnership to be able to say, okay, these are the minimum investments that we need. So you've done a perfect segue. A little bit of a segue there for you. I'm meant to do the segues, but you have led into it. You've got a strong background in Queensland sport. You're one of the few people, and I haven't run the numbers on LinkedIn, but you've got a unique background that you've worked with 3 different football codes. So in Australia, we call all of the different types of football because different football codes because everyone calls themselves football. Yep. So you are currently in the NRL Rugby League. Correct. You've also worked previously at the Queensland Reds, I should say, which is rugby union. Yep. And before that, which they call themselves football. and then before
Global
that,
football.
true football or world football or soccer, as people know it, at the Brisbane Roar.
Correct.
And like you said, scales of economy, size of business, those kind of things. You start, take us through your background and I guess the stepping stones and things you've learnt, along the way.
Yeah, so not by design that I've been through 3 clubs, bit of a journeyman, but my real background right back before I even got in sport was advertising, working for advertising agencies and worked on, the sponsor side.
Yep.
So I was working with NRMA on some of their Broncos leveraging back before I was involved in sport, and then was working on the FFA and Brisbane Roar account before I even joined that club. 3 very different clubs with very different structures that come from, their ownership and therefore then what they have to achieve. So the Roar being a privately owned club is very much...
Which again is rarer in Australia than the norm. Again, for people who are listening in the US and even in Europe where a lot of the teams are privately owned, in Australia, the majority of teams are not privately owned. They're member-based organisations. And again, if I'm using a US example, it's like the Green Bay Packers that are member-based organisations. A lot of the AFL and NRL clubs are formed that way as non-for-profits or something similar. But the Brisbane Roar were privately owned.
Yep, Brisbane Roar being privately owned. The Reds are actually a state governing body, with the Reds being their marquee representative team, and then the Broncos are shareholder owned. So we're listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. You can go and buy Broncos shares now. We had our AGM yesterday, so we have that accountability to mums and dads.
Yeah, which is, and that's a pretty unique to be listed in Australia.
Correct.
It is.
I think we're the only sporting team.
I think
that are listed.
the only sporting team.
Yeah.
So most of them are sporting organisations like the Reds. But so take me back to your. So we met I guess many years ago when you were at the Roar, and. Had some great success there around the Roar, around grand finals, and I guess activating those, and small teams doing big things, I guess is probably the way that I would describe you at the Roar.
Yep, yeah, very much. Roar was fantastic. There was 5 seasons I was there, so I joined under the Ange Postecoglou era in the middle, just after they won their first championship, which was a kind of a watershed moment for that club and. For its fans. Fantastic time there. Small, tight-knit team. A lot of passionate people in football, working in football. Everyone there knew the game intricately, loved it, would do anything for that club. And still are. The people working at that club are just dedicated to it. Absolutely love it. So, really great times at the Roar. Being the smaller size admin operation, so probably 20 staff, you get to learn a lot of the different aspects of the business. So working across membership and media, which in bigger size clubs are whole silos with their own team of 40.
But there's the constraints of budgets and resources, but then there's also the nimbleness of being a smaller team and all hands on deck and, hey, can we do this? And there's not the layers of people saying yes, no.
It makes you think. Yeah. You've got to be agile, you've got to be quick, you've got to be looking for every single opportunity to engage with your fans. If you miss an opportunity, you don't have the resources to go and make it again. And
it was a combination of, again, you were sort of saying in the marketing space, but it was a combination of leveraging as much of the media and the digital and, getting, as much of Brisbane behind you, especially around those grand finals and the themes of orange and getting everyone behind you. It was as much, PR and getting the media behind you, engaging your fan groups, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's since coming out of that environment, I've been able to reflect on it and what was it that made it a success at that time. And those big grand final moments are the ultimate fan engagement that you can do as a club.
Yep.
That is your moment to get fans right there and then. You'll never do any better than that. So it's after those experiences, how do you keep the fans coming back? And that's where you've got to, keep invoking those memories, those feel good, that real vibe of what that experience was like and keep harnessing it and driving it. And, the Raw probably didn't do that well enough in the first grand final when they did. Started to pick up on the second. And then by the third, it clicked. Okay, this is how you do it.
Yep. It really is that classic case of be ready to take advantage of that moment.
Yep.
And when it does, put the foot down as hard as you can and, capture as much content, capture as much fan imagination, capture as much data as you can. And then, when the confetti, slides into the gutter, you can say, okay, what have we got now?
Yes. Who was it during the Super Bowl? They tweeted, "We're going offline. We're out for."
Well, it was the Eagles.
Eagles.
That it was. I think it was 12:30 or midnight or whatever.
Yeah.
And they pretty much said, we're going off channel because there's nothing we can capture here.
There's nothing they can capture there, but there is nothing that they can do that is better than that full-time whistle.
Yeah.
You're never going to top that.
Yeah.
Ever. Your fans, doesn't matter what you post from then on, you won. There's the score. That's going to get the most likes you'll ever receive on any platform.
Yeah.
And it's then, okay, in 3, 6, 12 months, how do you keep that emotion going?
Yeah.
The celebrations after a win are good for a couple of days, but how do you keep taking people back to that singular moment?
Oh, completely. And it is like, and I was on the side of let them have a break. It's a hard slog, right? Let them enjoy it, and also knowing there's not a lot of content that's actually fit for air that goes on from 1 o'clock to 7 o'clock the next morning.
Nothing good happens.
But the thing is, there is that void of the newspapers say so and so won, Brisbane won, or whoever won. And then 2 or 3 days later, the news cycle kicks off onto draft or new season or player movements and all that. And your fans are like, no, we're good. We still want to talk about it. And that's the opportunity to lengthen it out. And then the other thing that's the easy thing is every big event, whether it's New Year's or Christmas or whatever, you can always go, oh, this is a Christmas when we're still champions. And you can remind, that whole reminding your fans, they're like, yes, that's right, we are. And that's the opportunity, I reckon.
But, yeah, you've also got the night of, winning. You've got your party. But then, you watching Manchester City yesterday with their ticker tape parade through the city of Manchester, that's your big fan engagement moment after the win. And so there's all these ways you can do it live there, and then you can also have someone else doing the longer form piece or the mini movie that you're going to put out a day or two later. Yeah,
that people are like, oh, I'm still all in.
Yeah,
I'm still all in. I want to be part of it. Or again, going back to what you're doing now, how can we integrate our partners in that piece?
Yep,
in that type of content. So so I guess Brisbane to the Reds to the Broncos. Again, I don't think I can understate it. The size and the power of the Broncos brand, how big they are. For a long time they were the only NRL team in the whole state of Queensland. Yeah. They were very early on social. Everyone pretty much just said, "Yep, we like the Broncos," because they'd been ingrained to like the Broncos for 20 years before other entrants came into the Queensland market. It's a behemoth up here.
Yeah.
And coming from two clubs that are in the market but are smaller players in the market.
Yep.
What's it been like coming to and understanding, I guess, the power of the Broncos brand?
It's actually been interesting because I've been a boyhood fan of the club.
Yeah.
So you mentioned there being the only team in the state. So I'm from North Queensland.
Yep.
Usually that's where I was born. That's where I grew up. And I think some of the Broncos came and visited up there, and from then I was a fan.
Yep.
And then the Cowboys entered the competition, but I was already
I was on the train. Locked you in, yeah.
I was already locked in. So to come to a club like this, at those other organisations, or I would say smaller because that's probably a bit derogatory.
But it's just from a number size and a member size and a brand equity size. It is. It's the Broncos are up there with one of the biggest football clubs in Australia, across all codes.
Yeah. So it's very easy at those lines to go, oh, the Broncos are doing this again, and you get a bit frustrated with it. Being in the club now, the Broncos is actually a club that it's here to support everyone.
Yep.
We actually don't focus on what other people are doing so much. We focus on our own backyard and our own fans. And
it definitely is a different perspective when at a big club. Has worked with big clubs before. It's, and again, other clubs will be looking at ladders or, hey, where do we rank and those kind of things.
Yeah.
And the big club mentality is we're focusing on our own stuff.
Yeah.
Like these are our own, internal metrics and things that we're chasing down and not getting competitive. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. There's still we want to be the biggest, baddest, biggest club. Yeah. That's that mentality of being a big club. And I'm sure it's the same, it's definitely the same in the AFL. I'm sure it's the same in the, the NBA and, I'm sure it's the same mentality the Yankees have in the MLB and Real Madrid. Like when you're the biggest club, it's like, how can we maximize it?
How do you keep getting bigger?
How do you keep getting bigger?
I think the biggest difference being at the Broncos is I kind of feel a bit more pressure of expectation, for what this club represents and the history that it has. And also then coming from being a fan, I know myself, this is what I'd love to see the club doing. This is what I'd like to see the club being, moving forward, doing this, doing that. So I think it's an expectation that I almost put on myself and the other staff put on themselves here to be bigger, to be better, to push it a bit further, to try something different again.
And so on that, because you're, again, not to say you're not looking at it else, are you looking at other big global team leaders to say, again, chasing down a Real Madrid or Barcelona, with their 100 million fans, is a different piece. But are you looking to those type of teams to say, how are we doing? How can we benchmark ourselves against the best of the best?
100%. So I'm currently copying it at the moment because I'm quite excited about all the European football kits that are being launched.
Yep.
And I've just got this folder that I've been collecting everyone's launch photography.
Yeah.
And being a rugby league club, looking at soccer clubs, it's like, come on, mate, focus here. And it's like, no, look at this. Look at how amazing this is. And you know that when we have a new jersey, what's going up on the wall. All of those launch photography pieces, and I'll be going, right, that's the standard. Yeah. That's where we've got to be.
So like the stuff that Paul Rogers did at AS Roma in releasing their kit, right, is a perfect example. And again, I love the phrase "steal with pride," but exactly, look through all of it, and what can you take and what can inspire you?
There's you can steal it too, but you can also look at it and go, all right, how do we go one step? What's the next step?
That's the
what's
whole
the next?
Yeah, that's the whole thing with Steal with Pride. It's not, hey, just rip it off and do it. It's what's our twist to it? What's the Broncos version of that? But that's the thing. There's so much inspiration out there.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the space, because we have this competitive juices flowing for people in the digital creative sponsorship marketing space that go, oh wow. Like look at AS Roma punching above their weight with the big boys, and what Paul's doing with AS Roma. It's like, well, you can break through the clutter. You can get through the noise. Like, for instance, Twitter there's a lot of noise. It's hard to get past the algorithm on Facebook. There's all these things. It's like, well, what gets
algorithm.
past it? Yeah, but what gets past it is good creative.
Yes.
And stuff that your fans connect with.
Yeah.
So, all the fussing of the algorithm, it's like, just be good.
And those pieces also have a part to play in your brand.
Yep.
So, key insight that I've been noticing of a lot of these launches is they're launching home jerseys and all the photography is done in their home stadiums.
Yep.
I mean, it's such a minor key detail. Most people aren't looking at what's around it, but of course it makes sense to launch a home jersey in your home stadium. Duh.
Yeah.
So, those subtleties of the
and even if it's subliminal, it's so that ties into our membership message, because you want to see those new jerseys on the field and you want to know where your seat, like, again, it doesn't have to be, here's a new kit, buy a membership pack, right? But it's like, there's 5 steps we're going to get you.
Yeah.
We're going to get you with 6 different pieces of content or 7 pieces of content. So when you get the marketing message that says buy a ticket, you're primed.
Yeah. And I mean, the other key sorts of things are, we know that players are more followed than teams on social.
Yep.
So they're using these marquee players from their teams to launch their jerseys and then doing a secondary shoot just with that individual and going, all right, well, here's the stuff for your social.
Yeah.
So
and the whole
building
play of
that network.
athletes networks and how to leverage those and how teams leverage those. It's probably going to be in the the upcoming collective bargaining agreements, and that's going to be the new battleground to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And it should be because, again, like The Rock, the player is going to value those assets.
Player has their brand.
And their own brand. But the opportunity for the clubs is to say, well, one way for us to grow is via our players. How can we get great content to our players?
Yep.
And a mix of, what the athlete player networks are doing, both here in Australia and in the US and the UK, the Players Tribune, uninterrupted, that kind of thing. It just widens the ability for you to push the brand out.
Yeah, and all of those agreements aside, if you deliver a player good content that it's going to make them look good themselves on their own network, they're going to post it.
Oh, completely.
Every time.
Completely. So thank you very much for the tour. I'm going to finish off with the Sports Geek Closing 5. Do you remember the first sports event you ever attended?
I actually do, and this is why it's interesting to work at this club. It was a Broncos game. So how old were you? Where were you? Do you remember where you were? I actually can't remember how old I was, but it was at the old Lang Park, which is where we play now. So there was a period where we played at a different stadium. I must have been 5 or 6, maybe even younger.
Yep.
Because I have a flag from that.
Okay.
From that game that my dad bought me. Yep. So I also lived in North Queensland, but he'd come down to Brisbane on a holiday.
Okay. So it was a whole trip, effectively. It was a whole, hey, we're going to go our first game.
Yep. Knew who the Broncos were, but was my first time actually seeing them live. I have the flag. I know that it's a pre-90s game. So the club started in 1988. Yep. But I know by the sponsor on the flag that it's a...
you've carbon dated it based on the sponsorship.
Yes. Because I dragged the flag out when I started here. I was like, hang on a second. Whoa, this is really old.
Yeah, this is a really good point, I guess, for the, again, just give context to the Australian and the European market. In the AFL, I think some in the NRL, they're doing retro jerseys with retro sponsors patches still on them.
Yes,
right, because you can't have the jersey without the patches. So we're seeing some jerseys come out with defunct insurance companies, or I don't actually, but they probably won't be able to get away with tobacco sponsorships and those kind of things. That might there might be restrictions, but it is funny, and the fans are clamoring for them. They go, I remember that 1990 jersey when we had that big insurance logo that doesn't exist anymore, or that government department that's now been privatised.
Even the old competition badges on the jerseys, that's a thing of pride, and people put a lot into it. I think we've got 2 retro jerseys downstairs with the old sponsors on it.
Exactly, and it's like, oh, hang on, can we double dip? Can we go back to that sponsor and get some money to get out of those jerseys? Like, it opens up those possibilities.
I think we're fortunate the ones on ours don't exist.
yeah, exactly. You would have, in your time in sport, you would have been to a lot of different sports events. Do you have a favourite food memory at a sports event, or a go-to food when you go to a sports event?
Don't so much have a memory, but I have, every time I work at Suncorp, which has been a lot in the last 7 years, I have to get a chicken roll.
Chicken roll?
When I'm working, I've got to go get the chicken roll.
Is it a roast chicken roll, or is it more of a chicken schnitzel?
It's a bit more like a chicken schnitzel with lettuce. It's pretty typical stadium food. But there'll be catering on for staff. There'll be stuff rolling around, but I've got to go get the chicken roll every time.
Oh, terrific. What's the first app you open in the morning?
Probably Facebook.
Facebook,
then to Twitter.
Okay.
See what's exploded in the sporting world overnight.
Definitely.
Although recently, if it's on a Monday, I'll always get up and check the Premier League scores as well.
Okay.
Through the Premier League app. And then I'll open the Optus Sport app and watch the highlights. So getting out of bed, it's a good 20-minute routine sometimes.
It sounds like, hang on, it's a Monday. Now I'm doing this.
Yeah, Monday, check the fantasy score too. You got to see, what did I score?
Is there someone that you follow that you would recommend that the podcast listeners should check out, whether they be someone who tweets or a writer or an author or someone that you follow?
Probably a bit of an unknown one. Guy by the name of Nice Orange is what he calls himself.
Nice Orange.
Nice Orange.
On Twitter?
Yep. Or Orange.
Anyway,
changes it.
We'll find the link and we'll find it in the show notes. What's he provide?
He's a mega fan. Loves a good Photoshop.
Okay.
Finds his way into these little niches of something that someone may not have picked up in a particular moment. Very funny.
In for rugby league or
Football.
Football?
Very much football. He's a Brisbane Roar fan.
Okay.
And
he's doing his own memes and commentary and that kind of stuff.
Loves it. Loves a good Photoshop tweaking of something. And it's always really subtle, but it's always on point as well.
Yeah, and I think that's where Twitter, I think that's a really great part of Twitter, that whole fan banter and the fan, the fan celebrity. Celebrity is probably the wrong word, but the rise of the fan content producer is probably a better word. That are commenting on the game. I was listening to a podcast recently with Worldwide Wob, who's a Twitter person, NBA Twitter personality. Yep. And so he got his rise at Vine. So when Vine was on, he was just doing quirky highlights of pettiness in the NBA, and he does this thing with synchronized players. So when players both scratch their head at the same time, he finds that clip and sends it out.
Yeah, right.
So it's in the quirkiness, but he's now risen to a point where people are checking out these weird highlights, and he's now doing a podcast and a show with ESPN as a result, because it's a new form, like it's a digital first content piece.
Yeah, and the fans like that are also a really good kind of reminder of who it is that you're going out to.
Yep.
It's very easy to listen to the loud, angry ones.
Yep.
But, those genuine fans who are just there to have fun, support the team, follow everything that they're doing, and amplify that.
Yep.
Really important key fans to keep on board.
And it does offer a different slant, like you said, on the content you're producing.
Yeah.
Like you go, and that's where we're seeing some teams take a little bit more of a fun element to, again, Twitter in use of memes and how they go about it. And, some do more snark than others.
Yep.
But like having a bit of fun on the platform, which is a bit of a hat tip to those kind of those type of accounts, and also sort of bringing them in-house a little bit to, whether it's retweeting or favoriting and that kind of thing, to say, we like this content, keep it up, our fans love it as well.
Yeah. The other thing that I find it does for me is, in the back of my mind, if you're about to put something out, you're like, oh no, what are they going to do to me if I put this out?
Yeah.
It's a kind of pause, makes you pause.
Oh, completely. And it has to be aligned with your brand, right? So those teams and brands that are pushing the edge and the envelope on that space, it has to fit with your brand. And and there are some, big brands, big teams, and again, that don't do it because, well, hang on, our brand has always been, it's always been traditional, and that's how we do it. So we can't play in that edgy space that an up and coming team or brand can do it. But it doesn't mean it's right or wrong.
Yeah,
it's got to be aligned with what you're doing from a brand point of view. So the last one, what social media platform is your MVP? And so you get 2 votes here, because people like to sit on the fence. You can vote what's yours personally, and then from a Broncos point of view, what platform is the MVP for the Broncos?
Facebook. I'm probably a bit old in this regard. Probably very
Facebook
old.
For you?
So for me, in the marketing space, the multimedia guys run a lot of the organic content.
Yep.
I run a lot of the paid.
Yep.
It's still
so powerful.
So powerful. You get those audiences right. You put the right content in front of them. Yes, it's an ad.
Yep.
But you can deliver that to them. You can track it. You can follow it through.
So that's a combination of ticket sales, membership sales, and sponsorship activations?
100%.
Yeah.
Merchandise as well. So merchandise is a big area for us.
Yep. That's it. I talk about sports teams and merchandise and Facebook ads as a faulty ATM. It's like you put money in, and more money, you put the numbers in, and more money accidentally comes out.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that e-commerce play and understanding how to do that, again, it's free money.
The other thing is increasingly so, coming back to Google, it's very easy on Facebook to go, wow, we can target down these people so well.
Yep.
For big sorts of clubs, you still need that mass reach. You still need that, we've got so many fans across such a large geographical area, like the number of fans that we have in Papua New Guinea is massive.
Yep.
They absolutely love us. We're almost their second national team.
Yeah.
The Broncos. We went there in the preseason and got mobbed.
So you end up in that space, similar to some of the NBA teams are now looking at segments of their digital fans and saying, "Oh, we've got a lot of fans in Indonesia. What sponsorship, partnerships, activations can we do in that space?" And you start looking at, what's our strategy internationally for, and in different parts of the world. Yes,
100%. How can we deliver content to these people that's, true to them?
Yep.
They're not just picking up what everyone else has. How do we tailor to them is very much something that we're doing. And, you can only get that analytics really through Facebook and Google in real time.
Yep.
So those are my two MVPs and what I spend a lot of time just watching, tweaking, refining.
And so the same answer for both, you personally and for the Broncos, or was that the Broncos answer?
I'm pretty boring myself on social media. I'm really boring on social.
Yep.
I'm a lurker.
Yep,
that's very much a lurker.
Lurkers are valid. Like a lot of podcast listeners are lurkers.
I've got more, DMs in my Twitter than actual tweets because I just have little side conversations. I'll copy link and have a side conversation.
So if you want to have a side conversation with Kurt,
just slip into the DMs.
Slide into his DMs. Your Twitter. How can people connect with you? This is you're perfect with the set up segues.
Mr. Brutton.
Mr. Brutton.
Brutton.
So you
with
can,
an underscore in there.
With Mr. Underscore Brutton. You can also connect with Kurt on LinkedIn. I'll have links in the show notes. Or you can slide into his DMs in the SportsBiz Slack.
Slide on in.
You're in the SportsBiz Slack as well. Thank you very much for hosting me here at the. I'll get the name right. Clive Berghofer Centre here in sunny Brisbane. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much.
Download our Facebook campaigns guide at sportsgeekhq.com/FB campaigns.
Thanks again to Kurt Brutton from the Brisbane Broncos. Please check them out. Check out what they're doing online and send Kurt a tweet at Mr. Brutton, BRUTTON. Don't forget that underscore between Mr. and Brutton. Send him a tweet and tell him that you listen to this episode. If you've got any questions, send him a tweet or message him on the SportsBiz Slack. As he said, he's a bit of a lurker, but he will respond and reply. As I said earlier, I'm travelling at the moment. You might be listening to this while I'm at C2 Montreal. I'm all booked in for my workshops and labs, and I've already got some brain dates set up. I've really enjoyed the process of finding new people to connect with prior to the conference, rather than the turning up on day one and meeting someone randomly at a networking event. It's been an interesting process. So I've already got some connections and brain dates, as they call them, built. So please, if you're interested in more, as always, you can contact me. I'm going to try a little bit of video blogs or vlogs, if they're still called that, during my week away. So if you haven't seen them already, you can check them out. I'll be putting them out on my LinkedIn, and also most likely a mix of my personal Sean Callanan Speaks is my Facebook page, or the Sports Geek Facebook page, and also put some out on on YouTube. So I'll have a little bit more to say of my C2 Montreal experience once I've come back, and potentially really looking forward to C2 Melbourne in October 17 to 19. Also, one of the things that I'm really enjoying, because I just did it in the last week, up in Queensland, was one of the reasons I was in Brisbane for the Sport and Rec conferences. So the one in Brisbane was last week. I've got one more to go. That's on Thursday, the 31st of May, up in Cairns. So if you know someone in that part of the world, tell them to go to sportsgeekhq.com/Queensland 2018. There's links there to go. But I'm really loving the different keynotes and workshops that I can run for conferences and events. So if you're looking for someone to present to your team, to your league, at a league conference, or a sports marketing or a digital conference, I'm really loving my current, suite of keynotes and workshops. There's the one titled Show Me the Money, Connecting Digital Sports and Sponsors, that works through how to build out sponsorship proposals that integrate digital. I've always got the digital fan engagement best practice, here's what people are doing around the world, which is always one that helps inspire, gives a bit of steer with pride, as I discussed with Kurt, sort of showing what other people can do and how you can twist it to your own. Also, some of the broader topics that I talk about is content strategy, whether that be content strategy from a sports point of view or from a big corporate point of view. How can you leverage the platforms that are available, and where should your content live? I've also got a few different variations on Facebook and the ad side of Facebook, and how you can best use that. And they're probably best illustrated in our Facebook guides, which you can get on the website. There's one on Facebook data. There's one on Facebook campaigns, how we do it. I've also done a couple of keynotes and workshops around LinkedIn, and it's titled How to Build Authority and Connect with Anyone. I've been a big fan of LinkedIn, been using LinkedIn for a long time. If you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn, my apologies. I should have sent you an invite by now. But yeah, I work with corporates and CEOs to help them understand how to use LinkedIn, how to use it as a business development tool. I think it's really valuable in the sports space for the people who work in the commercial teams and commercial sales and corporate sales to understand how to use LinkedIn, how to connect people, how to do it in the right way, and how to do it in the don't be doing it in the spammy way. And then the other one is Athletes in Digital, the Sports Geek Way, which is our athlete training program around how they can use digital and how they should use digital, and what things they should avoid in using digital and social. So there's just a few of the topics. I'm not restricted to those. So if you do need a speaker, simply go to sportsgeekhq.com/keynote. And you'll get a detail of all my speaking operations and be able to get in touch and find out if we can find a date. Until next episode, as always, you can get in touch with me via social at Sean Callanan, or old-fashioned way, via email, sean@sportsgeekhq.com. Until next episode, my name is Sean Callanan, and you've been listening to Sports Geek.
Join over 1,000 sports business executives in Sports Biz Slack. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/Slack. Please share your fave episodes of Sports Geek on LinkedIn. Be sure to tag Sean Callanan.
Go to sportsgeekhq.com for more sports digital marketing resources.
Want to chat with Sean? Book a time for a call. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/phone call.